Was former Dodge CEO and my friend of me, Tim Kuniskis, fired for wanting to keep the Hemi engines in the background and forced to make the tough decision to embrace hurricanes and EVs? Because what if I told you I now have video footage that proves that Tim Kuniskis wanted to keep the Hemi V8s alive, and it was Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares and the US government that played a role in the downfall of Dodge. If you have a legal issue with a dealership playing games, or a company that wants to drag their feet and initiate a buyback for your glitchy vehicle, my friends at Gordon & Partners have you covered. From helping dozens of you guys in the background to even helping me against a dealer that committed wire fraud with my non-refundable deposit, my friends at Gordon & Partners have your back, and with my special email address, butter@fortheinjured.com, you'll have access to some of the best lawyers in the country that give you the help that you need and the help that you deserve. So my over 34,200 friends and the 77% now subscribed, it was hard to believe that my friend of me, Tim Kuniskis, was genuinely enthusiastic by dropping the legendary Hemi engine in favor of a future dominated by the hurricane and electric vehicles. There's no question that the Hemi V8 was and still is one of the greatest V8s out there. Even before the issues with the D170 engines, the Hemi consistently led the market, outpacing the Ford Mustang and the Chevy Camaro in US sales. Dodge dominated the scene until the so-called last call year that allowed the Mustang to finally notch a win that it never had for like several years.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be really tough. It's gonna be almost an impossible task to make everybody happy. We're not going to.
No matter where you are in the country, you will see a Mopar V8 muscle car of every variety, way more than you see any other car from the big three automakers on the roads today. But now that we face the reality of tomorrow, all we are left with is hurricane engines and EVs that seem to be plagued with issues. The hurricane engines that was mysteriously pulled from roadkill nights last year are now causing headaches. The 2025 Ram 1500 models equipped with these engines are reportedly being loaded with problems, and especially being towed, according to the UAW.
What happens when that vehicle actually get in the field? And now it's out in the field, and as a customer, you start your truck up today, you Gucci, you good, you rolling, and then you go to the store, Myers or wherever you go, and you start up and it won't start.
So maybe we using the leftover parts from one truck, because we having the exact same problem that they had with the modules not waking up, with the trucks not starting, with the computers not responding.
And brake failures and all that.
I know somebody that actually had to take their brand new truck back to the plant after talking to the plant manager, and they had to put a flash drive in there
and reflash it.
And reflash the truck, a brand new truck.
How much are they paying to have these trucks dragged to another location? The towing.
I think last week check, there was over $250,000.
$250,000. That's just that one that we know about, but we sure it's a lot more than that. So you got 200 some odd thousand. Then you have the worker that will eventually get to $40 in 4 years, but yet we reading that the CEO got 39 million. So just that math right there is not mathing.
Over how many years?
For 52 weeks. You throwing away all of this money, then you could pay a one man $39 million, and he like what, 106 years old, so he not even gonna live long enough to spend that, but they can just give it to him. They're showing us clearly that they don't even care about the money. They care about the way that they perceive us as workers, to say that we're the problem. The whole company is just, I always say demonic, satanic, whatever you want to use. It's evil at its finest. So we need to understand the employer that we have. They have no soul and they don't care about us. $39 million, as he say, in one day. But we can't get $40 in 4 years.
The Grand Wagoneers are getting bought back in mass with tons of issues. And the Hurricane won't even be available in a Dodge Charger until next year. On the EV front, the situation appears equally grim. From what insiders and contacts both within and outside Stellantis have shared, the EV rollout has been disastrous. The The Ram Rev has been pulled off the assembly line for issues, and the Charter Daytona is a disaster behind the scenes, with mules being spotted had to be towed back, and now it faces delays as the new foreign engineers had to scramble to fix what can best be described as a $70,000 brick. The Wagoneer SEV, despite carrying the prestigious Wagoneer name, is riddled with software problems. It's a worrying picture for the future of these storied brands. If you want to understand why we're in this predicament and how things have deteriorated so quickly, I'm not offering speculation or guesses. Instead, I present you with words from our former leader, Tim Kuniskis.
And we literally adjust our plans on a monthly basis based on where we see the trajectory of compliance. Ram's a really good example of that. If we had that safety blanket of buying credits, we would still be building and selling the ancient iron block Hemi V8 that everybody loves. Knowing that we're going into this environment have forced us into a space where we had to develop a whole new powertrain strategy. A very high-tech twin-turbo 3-liter Hurricane that's going to actually give much better performance and be much more efficient and more flexible in the future. We wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for those regulations. So it's a long way to say, yes, it's super tough, but the CEO, he burned our boats, and we're forced to make the tough calls to make sure that we're on a trajectory towards the long-term compliance. The bigger enabler to all of that is no one knows what's going to happen, with the regulatory environment if there's a change in administration. So I made the joke about the silly putty. I think the silly putty is really in our product plan.
Now pay close attention to his demeanor. Does this seem like the guy who introduced some of the greatest Mopars in history? I can't disclose where I got this footage from, but I would like to thank some of those dedicated Mopar enthusiasts who have shared invaluable behind the scenes information with me on these particular subjects. But let's put to rest the notion that my frenemy Tim Kuniskis is responsible for the downfall of the Hemi and Dodge. There's been so much BS behind the scenes that it must have frustrated the Hellcat out of Tim Kuniskis. But let's do a rundown of the mess. You had the Giorgio platform that was canceled for Dodge, and there's no next-gen Hemi upgrade. All this was supposed to happen after the 2018 Demon debuted.
So there was two paths, right? There was the Giorgio path that we walked away from because it wasn't going to give us a separation from the competition. So that one was a very easy decision for us. Why spend a bunch of money just to go compete head on? Bad idea. At least we believed it was a bad idea. And then the second one was invest a lot of money into the L-Car platform to change that.
Then you had corporate turmoil with FCA being bought up by PSA CEO Carlos Tavares, who was infamously known as the cost killer for his reputation of ruthless cost cutting and shady tactics like unsanitary bathrooms in Italy for workers or missing work gear, which strangely enough, the UAW has been starting to report this stuff happening in the US. Then you got external pressure like calls from the White House trying to pressure them into increasing EV production when everyone is slowing down. Then you got the competition keeping V8s alive, with Ford revamping their V8 for their next-gen Mustang and just introduced a supercharger kit to sidestep their fleet MPG regulations. Then you got Chevy's commitment to the V8s, with Chevy upgrading their V8 engines for the C8 Corvette, with new variations coming for the Z06 and the upcoming ZR1. Then you got major investments like GM investing like tens of billions of dollars since 2013 to enhance their V8 engines, while Ford is committed to keeping the V8 in the Mustang for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, Dodge under Stellantis is stuck running either an EV or a bootleg BMW inline-6 engine in their Charger. This scenario paints a clearer picture of why Tim Kuniskis had to step away, or maybe be forced away, for calling out his boss in that investors meeting.
Now, if that wasn't enough, and you're really paying attention, and you're really quick with the math,
this is not a Tim Kuniskis failure. This is a combination of strategic missteps, external pressures, and competitive disadvantage imposed by Stellantis' leadership and the shifting regulatory landscape by the US government. But us, the Brotherhood, we have been left with this disorganized mess that has compromised the legacy of the Hemi and the Dodge brand. all while competitors like Ford and Chevy continue to invest and innovate their V8 engines that consumers want.
And we literally adjust our plans on a monthly basis based on where we see the trajectory of compliance.
This move towards a Hurricane engine, coupled with these glaring issues, highlights Stellantis' cost-cutting measures at the expense of quality and reliability. It is a troubling trend that can have lasting implications for the brand's reputation and customer satisfaction. I have all the faith in the world in Matt McClure, the new CEO of Dodge, but Carlos Tavares is the captain on the Titanic that is steering the brand towards an iceberg. It is disheartening to watch once great brands like Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram all falter at the same exact time. Instead of focus on practical upgrades, Stellantis seems fixated on misguided initiatives that are sinking their legacy. Imagine just doing something very simple. Upgrading Hemi V8 for a new generation should have been just a straightforward task. Take one V8 block, maybe a 5.7 or a 6.4, and adopt it for a naturally aspirated, a turbo, and a hybrid setup. This will basically give us a scat pack, a turbocharged Hellcat, and a halo trim, probably like a blue eye or something instead of the red eye, featuring a hybrid drivetrain. And you're basically done. For everyone below scat pack, just give them a Hurricane and a Pentastar. Meanwhile, you can take your time to develop an EV that could genuinely compete with the Tesla Model S Plaid, rather than what we got in the Charter Daytona, a vehicle that is set to be almost 1,000 pounds heavier than the Tesla Model S Plaid and equipped with all these gimmicky Hemi simulation software and hardware. We've gone from iconic vehicles and engines to this electric vehicle joke that even Tim Kuniskis has admitted that they would not have pursued if Carlos Tavares would allow them to buy some emissions credits. The Charter Daytona EV is a facsimile of what once made the Hemi engine great. They used trickery in the Charter Daytona to utilize frame shakers to mimic engine vibrations. They put subwoofers and exhaust pipes to replicate the Hemi sound, and then use software to do fake shifts to simulate the neck snapping Hemi. And despite all this cost cut behind the scenes at Stellantis, the Charter Daytona EV is still overpriced. I keep hearing rumors to suggest that it will cost $70,000 for a non-Banshee flagship model, and it can't even outperform a $55,000 Tesla Model 3 performance. It is so tragic to witness the legacy being undermined by decisions that prioritize short-term savings over long-term success and customer loyalty. The Charter Daytona in this current form is a far cry from innovation and excitement that once defined Dodge. Instead of building on a foundation of proven success with an upgraded V8 and careful EV development, Stellantis seems determined to cut corners and offer a watered-down version of what once made these brands great in the first place. Is it really too much to ask for a balanced approach that respects the past while thoughtfully paving the way for the future? One that doesn't turn iconic vehicles into mere simulations of their former glory. If Stellantis continues on this path, we could see these beloved brands fall into obscurity, driven by decisions that ignore both heritage and common sense. But at least we know that Tim Kuniskis didn't lose touch with the brotherhood. It was the higher-ups who lost their way, nickel and diming this company into the ground with poor vehicle quality, terrible working conditions for employees across multiple continents, and a failure to upgrade the things that made Dodge great in the first place. Tim Kuniskis' story is far from over, and my frenemy will be back, and hopefully he won't be handcuffed by the push for electrification again. With so many people being fired or retiring from Stellantis, there are plenty of opportunities for a fresh start and new directions to go forwards. The future may be uncertain, but there is a chance to rebuild and recapture the spirit that once made these brands legendary. Which I'm going to stay tuned, because this is not the end. It is just the beginning of a new chapter. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Until the next time, I'm out.